Yes, let's start the biodiversity, the most productive area that in the series of ecology, organism population, environmental issues, ecosystem, and biodiversity. They are going to play a vital role in the examination. The small area, but we use it to get the various kinds of questions here. So let's start biodiversity and conservation. Here we are going to discuss about the levels of biodiversity, the total number of species on Earth, the patterns of biodiversity, loss of biodiversity, biodiversity conservation. So, what is biodiversity? The heterogeneity at all levels of biological organization, ranging from cellular macromolecules to biome. That means diversity in the ecosystem, diversity in the community, diversity in the organism, in the tissues, in the cell level, from the cell level to the biome level, that the heterogeneity of biological organization of ranging from cellular macromolecules to biomes, what do you say it as biodiversity? Edward Wilson is the scientist who popularized the term biodiversity. So first of all, let's go with the levels of biodiversity here. The levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, ecological diversity. Genetic diversity, species diversity, ecological diversity. The diversity at genetic level, we say the genetic diversity. Rauwolfia vomitoria is given example in Himalayas, show genetic variation in potency and concentration of the chemical Reserpine. Not only this one, that means you can take any kind of plant, that every plant is having their own unique nature. Even if you take the kelotropis, that the kelopis, we say that cardiac glycosides are present. That means we are going to take over a particular plant or animal, which the characteristic feature which is present only in the plant, only in that particular plant, or only in that particular animal species. We are talking only in that particular animal species or plant species, which their respective gene is present in only that kind of that group of species. We say that is diversity at genetic level. That means every organism matches with other organism, that with various aspects genetically similar organisms are available, but we are talking about a particular gene which is there only in that particular plant. That India has more than 50,000 different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango. That when it comes to the diversity at species level, that Western Ghats have the greater amphibian species diversity than the Eastern Ghats. That means there may be in Western Ghat and Eastern Ghat some common species may present, but specifically in the particular area, that Western Ghats, that will find more specific species here which are present there only. We say diversity at species level. That means we may say some animals are cosmopolitan in distribution, some plants are cosmopolitan in distribution. So we are talking about, along with the common, a particular species which are going to live in that particular area only. If you take Tylototriton, the Tylototriton is a amphibian, urodil that is. That this particular urodil only present in Himalayas. That headquarters of urodil is North America actually, but that means most of the urodils are there belongs to North America. But Tylototriton is present only in that particular Himalayas. That we say that is the greater diversity. Then like the Spinodon punctatum, Tutara lizard in language of New Zealand, we commonly call that, is present only in the New Zealand. You don't find anywhere else in the world. So what do you call that is a greater diversity? Living the common, that a specific one of particular area. That if you do the same, a certain ecosystem, nowhere else it is present. That the variety of ecosystems of one particular area. What do you say? Diversity at a ecosystem level. Like in India, desert, rainforest, mangroves, coral reef, wetland, estuaries, and alpine meadows. That we can see there in India. We have the greater diversity. Okay, so diversity, what it mean here, that along with the similarity, a specific thing which is present in one particular place. Like the one particular place is having more kind of specific things. What do you say that as a diversity. Okay. So according to IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, more than 1.5 million species are described so far. That according to the Robert May's global estimate, that about 7 million, considering the species to be discovered in the tropics, that till the time only 22% of the total species have been recorded so far. Then animals, more than 70%, plants, including plantain, fungi, 22%. The most species rich taxonomic group among the animals is insects. We know that largest class in the animal kingdom is insecta. That largest phylum is Arthropoda. That 70%. That means out of every 10 animals, 7 are insects. The number of fungi species is more than the combined total of the species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. It's not sure about the total number of prokaryotic species because that conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable for identifying a microbial species. Many species are simply not culturable under laboratory conditions. That means you need to understand here that a particular species, if you identify somewhere else, but if you want to prove that the existence of the species, that you need to bring that particular microbe in the laboratory, you should culture and you should show the characteristic features in the laboratory conditions also. So that means if we can't do that, what do you say? That species no existence. That means that cannot be recorded over. So that's why we can say it's not sure about the total number of prokaryotic species. Okay. So then let's come to the biodiversity of India. Need to list out all these particular issues here for examination point of view. India is one of the 12 mega diversity countries, only 2.4% of the world's land area, but 8.1% of the species diversity we have. Nearly 45,000 species of plants and twice as many of animals will find. Then applying the May's global estimates, India would have more than 1 lakh plant species and 3 lakh animal species. So let's get into the topic here, that more productive area to get questions. Latitudinal gradients, patterns of biodiversity. That the first one is latitudinal gradient. Species diversity decreases as we move away from the equator to the pole. Small logic here. That means equator in this particular area to the pole. When we go, definitely that particular diversity of the species is going to be decreased over. So tropics like latitudinal range 23.5 N to 23.5 S degrees, you'll find the huge number of particular species here that shown in the dotted lines 23.5 N to 23.5 S. You'll find the huge number of species here. This is a more productive area to get questions. That examples they're given. Colombia, located near the equator, has nearly 1400 species of birds. That India, tropical latitudes, that more than 1200 species of birds are there. New York at 41 N, moving towards the pole. That's why we have only less, 105 species of the birds. The Greenland, 71, almost near to the pole. The pole is 90 and or 90, yes, we can see. So that moving towards the equator to the pole, you can see that the bird species, 56 species of birds only will find in the case of Greenland. That example, evidences we are showing actually. Okay, we are showing evidences. Okay, so then the tropical forest, region that like Ecuador that has up to 10 times as many species of vascular plants as a forest of equal area in the temperate region like the Midwest of Asia. All these examples are what here? From the equator to the pole, the diversity is going to be decreased over. The maximum we can see at 23.5 N to the 23.5 S at the equator region. Why? What is the reason? The greatest biodiversity on the earth in that particular area only. That we have to see over. That we have some more examples here to explain, to learn the particular examples. Okay, let me. The more than 40,000, 4,000 species of plants, 3,000 fishes, 1,300 species of birds, 427 mammals, 427 amphibian species, 378 reptiles, then the 1,25,000, more than 1,25,000 invertebrate species. Where is that place? The greatest biodiversity on the earth is tropical Amazon rainforest of South America. Is having the greatest biodiversity. The Amazon rainforest you can see on the screen. What is the reason actually? Reason for the highest biodiversity, what do you call species richness in the tropical region? These are all going to questions here, the mostly statements. They receive more solar energy, which contributes to greater productivity. They provide a relatively constant environment, less seasonal. That means almost a stable environment can be expected over a long period of time. That means tropics had more evolutionary time, we can say. That means for a millions of years, a particular area remains with little changes only. That means the niche of the species, niche specialization can be expected. Or what is niche specialization? A particular species speciality. That means a variety of development of the species that functional, structural, anatomical, physical, physiological, whatever, that any status of an organism, we say niche, in other terms, people say, that ecological niche specialization is possible only when that particular area is stable for a longer period of time. That is possible in the case of the tropical regions. That's why the greater biodiversity can see. Okay. Then species area relationship. The German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt observed study in South American jungles that within a region that species richness increased with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit only. That the relation between species richness and area for a wide variety of taxa turn out to be a regular rectangular hyperbola. Actually, this is the only people feel the complication in this particular area. What it is exactly, if we come to know, there is no problem here. What it is exactly. That means if I announce like this, in a 1 acre area, 100 species are present. In a 1 acre area, 500 species are present. In 1 acre area, 1,000 species are present. If I announce like this, what do you say? Richness is more or less that means, what is your answer when I ask here that richness is more or less or moderate? So we can't answer actually. For example, in chemical control and coordination, that pituitary gigantism, pituitary dwarfism, we are seeing the two contrastings, isn't it? So when you say it as gigantism, I am 6 feet tall. So can you say I am having gigantism? No, that means we made a standard scale that more than 6 feet, if any person is growing 7 feet, 8 feet, likewise, we say that is gigantism. Less than 6 feet, less than 6 feet, that means 5 feet, for the 4 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet. If I say, people will hold me. The 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, likewise. That what do you say? Dwarfism. Then what is this 6 feet? This is the standard scale. This is a standard scale. That means if I say like this, in 1 acre area, if 500 variety of species are present, example, I'm not saying in 1 acre 500 species are present, just for example, in 1 acre area, if 500 species are present, if this is a standard, if 500 is present in one particular acre area, this is good. If I say, if 1,000 are present, we say species richness is great there. If 100 is present, species richness is very low there. That means 1 acre equal to 500 is a standard scale. So I hope you understand what is Alexander von Humboldt, what he designed actually. What he designed a scale. More than that, high species richness. Less than that, low species richness. Then at that particular place, that optimum species richness. What is that? What is that? S equal to CAZ. That means that is scale, hyperbola. On logarithmic scale, that relationship is given as 45 degrees angle, a middle line will come. So both are same here. The mathematical expression is different. S equal to CAZ, that hyperbola will come like this. And if you say logarithmic standard units, log S equal to log C plus Z log A, you will get 45 degrees angle hyperbola. That means if I take this is a standard scale made by Alexander von Humboldt. In this area, Z equal to 1. Okay, what is Z? The slope of the line, regression coefficient. No much details required. If you remember this as Z equal to 1, 1.5, that graph will come here. Then 0.6 graph will come here. Below this, we say species richness is low, dropping down. That above this, we can say species richness is high. Or hyperbola, if you take this hyperbola. Above this, richness is high. Below this, richness is low. On this, richness is optimum. So that what he did actually. That means he made a scale. He made a scale. That means scale, above the scale that you are doing, that more than expectation you are doing. Below the scale, less than expectation you are doing. What is the scale? That optimum means at expectation. That expectation is S equal to CAZ, that standard scale. If on the scale, we'll find that is good enough. Okay. So let us see here that on logarithmic scale, the relationship is a straight line described the equation of log S equal to log C plus Z log A, where S equal to the species richness, A equal to area, and Z equal to the slope of the line, C equal to Y intercept. Z and C are the mathematical expressions here. The value of Z lies in the range of, in general, they use it to say 0.1 to 0.2. Okay, so in the species area relationship among very large areas like the entire continents, that means overall a total continent, if you can take over, the slope of the line is much steeper. That means 0.6 to 1.2 we can expect over. So what is 0.6? Less than rich, 1.2 more than the requirement. So if we announce for frugivorous birds and mammals in the tropical forest of different component, the slope is 1.15. If I say now, you can answer what is there any danger there? No, there is no danger. They are 1.15. That means more than the requirement they are present. That means richness is very good there. In that way, you can see. So that means you just need to remember here that is scale. Actually, it will take a lot of time to explain species area relationship mathematically. That no matter doesn't require actually further. Just this is the thing you need to understand. What is that slope of the line? That optimum. If 1 acre is having 1000 is a good number, more than 1000 richness is high, less than 1000 richness is low, 1000 is optimum, that is S equal to CAZ. You should remember like that. Okay. Loss of biodiversity. What's happening to the biodiversity? We recognize first of all that where the diversity is more, then after we are thinking about that loss of biodiversity. So different species have been extinct due to human activities. According to IUCN Red List categories, 784 species, in that 338 vertebrates, 359 invertebrates, and 87 plants have extinct in the last 500 years. Like dodo from Mauritius, dodo bird is from the Mauritius, quagga from Africa, thalassin from Australia, stellar sea cow from Russia, and three subspecies like tiger subspecies, Bali, Javan, Caspian of tiger species get extincted here. Let us see the animals here. Dodo from Mauritius. So you can see the quagga from Africa. This is the quagga. The Bali tiger. It belongs to us, India. Javan tiger. Caspian tiger. This is thalassin. Extincted. They're all extincted actually. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue the biodiversity through the part 2. Part 2 of the biodiversity we should go. Yes, welcome to the part 2 here. So the biodiversity and conservation, that here the part 2 we have more questions. The 27 species disappeared in the last 20 years. More than 15,500 species face the threat of extinction. 12% birds, 23% mammals, 32% amphibian, 31% gymnosperm species face threat of extinction. The current species extinction rate is, actually extinction rate is always present. Extinction is a common phenomenon. But why you are worrying? Worrying because that now the extinction rate, because of the anthropological activities, human activities, that when human evolution is started, when human civilization is started, that extinction rate is increased from 100 to 1000 times faster. Now it became nowadays than in the pre-human times. If the present trends continue, nearly half of all the species on earth might be wiped out within the next 100 years. That loss of biodiversity leads to, what is the problem actually? If a human think like that, if all that particular species extinct, I can occupy the total world. In that way, if a human is thinking, this is the loss. The decline in plant production, the lower resistance to the environmental perturbations such as drought, increased variability in ecosystem processes such as plant productivity, water use, and pest and disease cycles. That just one time reading make us to answer the different kinds of statement questions. One of among these, the effect of biodiversity. The one among these, the adverse effect of the resultant of loss of biodiversity. We get these kind of statement questions there. Okay, what are the causes of biodiversity losses? That habitat loss and fragmentation, over-exploitation, alien species invasions, co-extinction. These are all the four major aspects here. We call them as the evil quartet. In that, first of all, let's come through the habitat loss and fragmentation. That's the most important cause actually. That habitat loss in tropical rainforest loss from 14% to 16%. Thousands of hectares of rainforest is being lost within hours. That Amazon is the rainforest is the best example here. The lung of the planet we use it to say, but being cut for cultivating soya beans. The reason will be asked in examination, or for conversion of grasslands for cattle. Then when large habitats are broken up into fragments, the mammals and birds requiring large territories and certain animals with migratory habits are badly affected, leading to a population declines. So fragmentation is also a common phenomenon actually, that we have a technical term for fragmentation. Continental drift. Yesterday I said in evolution. That means Australia separated from the remaining the place that became an island. So this is also a kind of fragmentation. Such kind of fragmentation require that thousands and millions of years, which is natural actually. But this fragmentation done by human being, that making roads between the forest, they are making the construction of the projects. These are all going to make effect on the particular this kind of fragmentation and the mammals and birds who actually live in the large territories. That's the reason actually the why animals are the tiger, cheetah, these animals are trying to come out into the human places. That is because he made fragmentation. That is adverse effect of the fragmentation we can see. Over exploitation, like the stellar sea cow, passenger pigeon are extincted due to the over exploitation. Means we are not allowing them to breed itself. Before that animal breed, we are eating. So that means we are killing them. So that means no animal, natural condition, they don't do like that. That means a deer knows that if 100 deers, tiger knows that when 100 deers are running, today I'll kill all the deers. Then what about tomorrow? That no animal will think like that. Only civilized human being will think of this kind of over exploitation. If what happens if a tiger kill all the 100 deers? There is no breeding. All that 100 of forest is killed out. That means no time for the reproduction. We say simply over exploitation. No time for reproduction we are giving. Alien species invasion. Alien species cause decline or extinction of the indigenous species. There are examples to be remembered. The Nile perch introduced into the Lake Victoria, the East Africa, caused the extinction of more than 200 species of cichlid fish in the lake. Alien species invasion. That, as we said now, by the diversity, some particular species will survive there only, and their natural predators will be seen there only. But human, the civilization, the transport facilities are more improvised. So that's why what's happening there from one place to another place is moving. This move also makes over the local species may get extincted. So who is the alien species in the case? Nile perch is alien species. Where it come? Lake Victoria. And what happened? 200 species of cichlid fish. This is the information to be remembered over for examination aspect. Invasive weed species like carrot grass, Parthenium hysterophorus, that one of the well-occupied weed plant of the India. Lantana bushes, water hyacinth, Icarnia, that this is also one of the best occupied in the canals of projects. You will find this Icarnia is causing more damage to our native species. Illegal introduction of the African catfish, Clarius garipinus, for aquaculture is posing a threat to the indigenous catfishes. Okay, so that in our rivers. These are all examples for alien species invasions here. The Nile perch, you can see. Cichlid fishes. Cichlid fishes. They're all the cichlid fishes. Let's come with the co-extinction. Before I go there, one of the best examples is of co-evolution plant pollinator mutualism. Before we go there, let's take a live example. Earlier I said our dodo bird is extincted, isn't it? That in Mauritius. Then after the extinction of the dodo bird in the Mauritius, it was noticed that Clavaria major, dodo bird scientific name is Rauwolfia cuculatus, that when after the extinction of that bird, Clavaria major trees are also, the new plants are not coming in the Mauritius, that the ecologists are noticed. So when they started investigation, they came to understand that what happens to the Clavaria major. Clavaria major is a kind of tree in Mauritius like our mango tree or a neem tree of India. So that means they have much importance of that particular tree. So the Clavaria major tree, the Clavaria major is not coming. New plants are not coming. New trees are not coming. So what happened when I think? So actually the seeds of Clavaria major eaten by this dodo bird after passing through the abrasive gut of the clave, that dodo bird, that through the fecal matter of the dodo bird, when they come out, then only they come for germination. So now the dodo bird is extincted. So that's why that extinction of the Clavaria major tree in Mauritius also started happening. No new plants are coming. So that means that we say co-extinction. According to Albert Einstein, that he said after the extinction of the honeybees, because of this telecommunication system, that insects are more effective. After the extinction of honeybees, he said within 100 years, I think 100 or 10, I didn't remember, that you can see in the quotes, that with the total the animal species and plant species are going to extinct over on the earth, he said over. That means that is all we say co-extinction. And what way? The answer we have co-evolved plant pollinator mutualism. You know that honeybee is the major the pollinator actually, which that there is no honeybee means most of the plants will come for extinction in that way. That this is a joke. What do you say? Extinction of the parasite when host is extinct. Okay, very good. So biodiversity conservation. How do we conserve? This is the third part. But first we said importance of biodiversity, where the biodiversity is there. Next we said that what is happening to the biodiversity. Now in the third part we came to know what to do, that why we should protect this particular area, biodiversity conservation. We have three arguments: narrowly utilitarian argument, broadly utilitarian argument, ethical argument. Before I get into the topic theoretical portion here, we need to understand what is it exactly. Narrowly utilitarian argument. Narrow mind. You use it to say narrow mind. What is narrow mind? Narrow mind will always ask you, what for me? If I do this favor to you, what is for me? So for that kind of explanation means we are giving a favor to the humankind, that we are giving offerings to the humankind. If you protect the plants, they give a lot of products to you. This kind of argument we say narrowly utilitarian argument. Okay, broadly utilitarian argument, that we are going to say think big. If you think big, that along with you, that remaining organisms also allow them to survive. That less offerings. Ethical argument, values we are talking about this. But that means here we are doing an argument like the asking the human here, only you have the space in the particular total earth. Every organism is having their the space, and they have their own the place that you should not occupy. You should have ethics, you should have values, what you can say. You should have values. In that way, if you argue that that means this is not only your place, that they also have their respective that you should respect and you should allow them to stay. In that way, that if you argue, that is a ethical argument. Let's come through this narrowly utilitarian argument. The human derive economic benefits from the nature, such as food, firewood, fiber, construction material. We are giving offerings here: industrial products, tannin, lubricant, dyes, resins. Then more than 25% of the drugs are derived from the plants. Likewise, they are giving offerings in narrowly utilitarian argument, that medicinal value for 25,000 species more have medicinal value. Broadly utilitarian argument. The biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services. That Amazon forest produces 20% of total oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, giving importance here. The pollinator through bees, bumblebees, birds and bats, and also give aesthetic pleasure. In that way, you please conserve the particular we are saying. Now, in ethical argument, we are saying please to have moral value. Please do consider that survival of the other organisms also. That every species has an intrinsic value. We have a moral duty to care for their well-being. That is, we say, ethical argument. And the most productive area in examination point of view, the types of conservation: in situ and ex situ. On-site conservation in situ, off-site conservation ex situ. Let's take it out. The conservation of genetic resources within natural or human-made ecosystems in which they occur, that where they are present, if you protect them, we say on-site. It includes protective areas such as national parks, sanctuaries, biosphere reserve, the cultural landscapes, natural monuments likewise. Then India has 14 biosphere reserves, 17 in new book, 90 national parks and 448 wildlife sanctuaries. I am showing some of them. That area which is strictly reserved for the welfare of the wildlife, no that with private ownership and activities like cultivation, grazing are prohibited. What do you say that as national park? There are no private ownership. Okay, so that the Ernakulam National Park in Kerala, you can see here. Sanctuary, we have some private ownership in that particular area. In between the villages, you can see the bigger area. We can see the area in which protection is given only to the animals. The operations like collection of timbers, minor forest products, and private ownership rights are allowed. That means villages are present in between, so long as they do not interfere with the well-being of animals, like Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary in Kerala. So biosphere reserve, the areas of land or coastal environments to conserve the ecosystem and genetic resources contained therein. Sacred forest and sacred groves. What is sacred forest and sacred groves here? Holy places, we can say. That means by giving explanation of the biodiversity and importance of the plants and animal species in relation to the human favor, that all these, irrespective of all these, if you say a bigger tree, that the tree is holy tree, or well, that means if we say that is a god tree, that you should not do anything. If we say, people will more understand, isn't it? So in that way we are going to say, that means a yellow thread, if you tie surround the tree, and a little bit a small god, if you place there, that's over, that's all. The people will start protecting that particular tree. So I'm not criticizing, just I'm saying here that this particular, that means sacred means the meaning of sacred like that only. This is a holy plant, this is a holy tree, this is a holy river. People start, exception is there, Ganga river. People are saying holy river means they are started pollution. Protected by several tribal communities, like sacred graves. We have some examples in India, Kasi and Jaintia hills in Meghalaya, Aravali hills of Rajasthan, the western Ghat regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, Sarguja, Chenda, and Bastar areas of Madhya Pradesh. Need to remember all these particular. So let's come to the ex situ conservation, off-site collection, we can say, like genetic resource centers, that geological park, botanical garden, gene banks. In gene banks, we have seed gene banks are also present there. Okay. So finally, we came for declaration, hotspot. That means declaration. We are declared. We are trying to protect that particular world, that biodiversity. So to protect, where to protect? That what we have to see here. The Dr. Norman Meyer is said that the total globe, on the total globe, he pointed out some spots. This is the area with greater diversity. This is very important. This is very important. Likewise, he spotted some areas, 34 biodiversity hotspots he spotted over. So that areas with great diversity, we should protect them first of all. In that way we are talking about. Okay, there are 34 biodiversity hotspots in our India also. We have question here. The Western Ghats in Sri Lanka and Indo-Burma and Himalayas, which cover the India biodiversity regions. Western Ghats I am showing here. Himalayas, rare species are there. So finally, the conclusion that sustainable use of biodiversity, conservation of biodiversity, sharing of benefits of the utilization of the genetic resources are the objectives of the Earth Summit Rio de Janeiro at 1992. This is the Earth Summit where they signed. The World Summit should remember independently. That means this is the area where more productive questions will come. The World Summit on Sustainable Development held in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa. 190 countries are pledged to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss. Okay, so the more productive area we can see that in examination point of view, but here